Okay, so we're going to talk about something called plastic wrap. In order I have some exercises for you, which I recommend that you download from Canvas and then just load them in. So it's Design 10A Advanced Keyframe Animations. You can go to File, Project Management, Load Project, and then load that in. And then you want to load in exercise 1. So we've talked about animating characters. We've talked about, doing frame by frame or, doing a walk cycle and things like that. And that involves a lot of drawing. What if you had a character, like say this character here, or this character? These are drawings, I believe they were done in like Photoshop or Illustrator. They're being brought in as, I think, PNGs. So they're a single drawing, and what I want to do is quickly animate them. Okay. So the thing about this is that that would be kind of hard to do. I'd have to, draw over them and maybe do like a rotoscoping or something. But we're going to use a tool that's going to help us quickly animate these characters, and it's a tool called Plastic Wrap. What the Plastic Wrap tool does is it turns your character into sort of like a marionette, if that makes sense. So like imagine if this was like a stuffed, toy, like a stuffed animal, and then we put like a simple armature inside, like little simple bones that let us, like I don't have it here, but those like little wooden armatures that people use for body posing. Of course I have one. Of course when I need it I can't find it. But, think of it like that, okay? So let's start with the dog, and I have this dog layer here. And you can see it's all one layer. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this plastic tool. It's down here about 4 from the bottom. And when I do that, or actually, yeah. So I want to make sure the dog layer is selected. And I'm with this tool selected, what we're going to do is we're going to create a mesh. Okay. This mesh is like, think of it like chicken wire or like plastic that's going over your drawing. So I'm going to click on it. And it's on the upper left-hand corner here. Hopefully you can see it. And I'm going to click, and it's going to open up this window here. And you can see it's that layer, and on top of it is my drawing, and there's these sort of, there's these tessellations that are being applied to it. And what you could do is, you can notice if I slide this to the right, they get bigger, and if I slide it to the left, they're much smaller. I'm going to make them kind of in between. I don't want them too big, but I also don't want them too small. Something like this, maybe. Okay. This is called my mesh edge length, which is the length of each one of these lines here. Okay. What this is going to do is these are going to become the area that we're going to manipulate. Okay. So I'm going to hit apply. And actually what it does is it makes like a little layer on top. Okay. Now that's step 1. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a skeleton. Okay, this skeleton is going to be the thing that we manipulate. Okay, so you apply this to the mesh layer, and we're going to start with the root. The root is like the base of your model, the base of the skeleton. So I'm going to click, and you can see I get this little purple square. Okay, this is what we call a bone. You can give it a name here. I'm actually going to go back later, and it's like I'm going to set up the bone structure for my dog. So it's going to be there, there, there. You can build off of bones. You can add bones too. You see I added one here. And I'm going to put one in the leg, and I'm going to put one, oops. I don't want that one. If you want to remove it, you can right click on it and choose delete vertex. So I'm clicking, and I'm also going to click and do one for the tail. At any point you can also click and manipulate these and move them around. So when I start to animate this single drawing, these are actually what I'm animating. So like, imagine the vertex as like a way of collecting these meshes. So when I move the vertex, it's going to move the surrounding or nearby mesh, if that makes sense. So it's like this is going to control this area, this is going to control this area, this is going to control this area. So you don't want too many bones, but you also don't want too few, if that makes sense. So it's like it's kind of strategic about where you place them. And once again, by default they get some names here, like vertex 1, vertex 2. I might call them something a little more appropriate, like head, you know, nose. That way it makes a little more sense. Tail, you know, whatever you want to call it. Leg or back leg. Front leg. Okay. Alright, so I got my mesh. More importantly, I have my skeleton. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to where it says animate. What animate allows me to do now is to move parts around. So if I take this, notice I'm kind of animating the dog here. And really what I'm doing is I'm creating a keyframe. Okay. So for instance, let's hypothetically say, you know, if I click on this back one, you can see how I can make the tail move. So, you know, I'm taking this static image. Now, before when we used to do this, they were separate layers. Remember how we would like have a separate layer for eyes or a separate layer for the mouth? This is all technically one layer. So it's kind of like I'm taking this image and I'm able to manipulate it. So, you know, I'm using keyframes here. So by the fact that I even move this at all, it set a keyframe. And then it's kind of like, well, I can just use keyframes to move my character back and forth. So a lot of this is really about position. I'm changing the position of this vertex, but it's kind of attached to this system here, so it's like attached here. So it doesn't just move willy-nilly like a normal position thing does. It's based on this. So if I play this back, look at that. A nice simple little tail wave. Okay. All using keyframe animation. Once again, I didn't have to, you know, I didn't have to, you know, draw it frame by frame. This is basically kind of, you know, I'm combining sort of this distortion tool with keyframing. So maybe I want to move the head. Now when you move an item here, notice that any subsequent bones that come off of it also get affected. So for instance, if I was to move this, it's like I move the whole thing. So maybe like the head's going to move back and forth while the tail's moving. So maybe it's like here. And then the head's going to go back. So it's hard because this one's already kind of going, so I'd have to, you know, because they're all sort of on one layer, it gets a little hard, but, you know, this might be where I might want to, yeah, it's a little too fast, but what can I do? I might make this a little bit better. Okay. Let me try it again. This time I'm going to use this character here that I found. So once again, it's a single, you know, it's just a regular image. I don't know if I can find the example of it, but excuse me. I'm going to do something kind of similar where I'm going to take this man and I'm going to click on the plastic wrap tool, and I'm going to create a mesh for him. So create mesh. Once again, it's like, you know, if you make the mesh too wide, moving one item will affect a bigger area. But if you make the mesh too small, once again, it's like it may not move a big enough area. So you can try with different sizes, but usually I find that you want something that's kind of in the middle. Not too big, not too small. Hit apply. So that's going to add my mesh. And I'm going to add a bone structure. I'm actually just going to add a really simple one. So let's build a skeleton for this character. So once again, like with the dog, it builds the separate mesh layer. This is going to be my root. Usually you can't move the root. You can't animate the root bone, so just be aware of that. And I'm going to click. And I'm going to set one for the head. So I want the head to move. And then I'm going to make one for the arm. And because I'm going to make his arm move. And then I'm going to make maybe his, I guess for him it'd be his right leg, but for us it's on the left side. Okay. So once again, it's like this is kind of like his pelvis bone, sort of. This is kind of like a shoulder bone. This is to control the head. This is to control the arm as a whole. This is to control the top part, or it's kind of it's an elbow bone. This is to control the hand. This is to control the knee. This is to control the, you know, the foot. So once again, I'm going to change with the plastic tool on from mode to animate. Now it's actually accidentally getting too much here, so I don't know, but we'll see. Yeah, I mean, it's not perfect by any stretch, but you know, maybe I want to make this person's arm move, so I'm going to animate this. And then maybe I'll make the head kind of bob a little. You know, it's not going to be, you know, it's okay, you know. Obviously, if the arms are, you know, if the parts are farther, it's not going to distort as much, but, you know, it's a quick, easy way to animate, right? Look how quickly and easily I made that arm move and the head bob back and forth, you know. You could have done that with frame-by-frame animation, and to a certain degree it would have been a lot smoother, as any frame-by-frame is going to be over keyframe, but it's more work. It would have taken a lot longer. This was basically, I took an existing image and was able to animate it, you know, okay, in a couple of, in less than a minute, you know. And just some more practice here. I'm going to take this crab. So here's this crab image I found. And I'm going to use the plastic wrap tool. And I'm going to create a mesh. See, if that was like that's like too much. I kind of want to like, yeah, something like that. Not too big, not too small. I'm going to take this mesh and let's extend it. I'm going to zoom out a little bit so I can see more of my timeline. Alright, and let's add a bone structure. So I'm going to go to, now that I've made it, let's go to Build Skeleton. So, like, I kind of want to animate his major claws here. Or he, she, I'm not sure. And maybe, I don't know, maybe I'll do these legs. Okay. So, I've built the skeleton. Feel free in skeleton mode to move things around and readjust them. You can name them here. If you don't like a vertex, remember you can always highlight it and choose delete to remove it. Now that I sort of have things where I want them to be, let's go to animate. And I'm going to make the claws kind of move, so I'm going to actually kind of move it here. So I'm going to make the claw move. I'm also going to make the other one kind of move. And then come back. And then I'm going to make the legs kind of move. And then come back. Okay, so some very simple, animation. Once again, is this my greatest animation I've ever done? Is it? No, but it's decent. It's not as fluid as obviously a frame by frame would be, but it gives you a good starting place. This plastic wrap is especially good if you just want to do something really simple, like just maybe a simple head nod or a simple arm movement. So I have this woman, and once again, I'm going to add a plastic wrap to her, so I might create a mesh. Yeah, it looks pretty decent. Oops, where is it? Not sure what happened there. Let's try that again. That's why this mesh is a little bit off. Oh, I see. Okay. The reason why this is off is the character actually started from the center, but then I moved it. So really, when you set the mesh, you should have it in its place first. So I'm just kind of... Yeah. All right. So let's place her here, and then I'll actually move both characters later. So let's do... Once again, I'm going to use plastic wrap. Create a mesh. There's our mesh. Now that I've kind of done that, if you move the main character, the mesh should move with it. So if I just move this... Oh, mesh did not move with it, but... Oh, sorry, other way around. If I move the mesh, the woman should move with it. There we go. Okay. Alright, now, like I said, if I want to do something really simple, so maybe I'm just going to make her head kind of go back and forth. This would be a good use of... I'm just going to do something simple. So that's like her neck. This is the top of her head. This is going to represent her arm. And I'll switch this to animate. And so it's kind of like, I don't love that it's affecting here. Whee, she's dancing. That's because this is taking up a little bit too much of that space, but... But, maybe I'll just have her kind of move her head back and forth just slightly. Kind of like a head nod. Okay. Alright, so why don't you guys try that out? That was exercise 1 and 2. Try utilizing the plastic wrap tool.